ghouls, goblins, and ghosts. I bid you welcome to the Festival of Samhain Horror podcast, hosted by your Halloween queen, Purgatory, the Queen of Samhain. If you're new to the show, hi, I'm Purgatory, the Queen of Samhain. Welcome to my catacombs of creepiness. Here in my catacombs of creepiness, we talk all things horror, big or small, with both the living and the dead. Okay, let's get started with week number 2 of my annual 61 Days of Halloween event. And we added a new column, Nic Cage Horror Week. This episode will be me discussing with all of you all things Nicolas Cage and horror, and he has become quite the scream king over the years. Let's start out with some basics though. Who is Nicolas Cage? His full real name is Nicolas Kim Coppola, and of course we all know him by his professional stage name, Nicolas Cage. Not only is he an actor, he is a film producer as well and has gained a massive cult following over the years due to his range and participation in all kinds of different film genres like comedy, romance, action, and even horror, which is what this episode is about. His participation in the horror genre. He was born in Long Beach, California. His father, August Coppola, was an author and academic, and his mother, Joy Vogelsang, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I totally butchered that, I'm sorry. She was a dancer and choreographer. On his father's side, he was the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, and you guys probably already know who that is, but if you don't, he's a famous director, producer, and screenwriter, and he's known for the 1984 film The Outsiders. Nicolas Cage began his career in the film Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Valley Girl. Neither are horror movies. As I stated when the episode first began, he has really made a name for himself in horror as of late. Last week, I watched a handful of super fun Nic Cage horror films such as Renfield 2023, his new film Longlegs 2024, Willy's Wonderland 2021, Mom and Dad 2017, The Wicker Man Remake 2006, and Mandy 2018. Now, I enjoyed each of the films I watched, so I'm going to take a moment to rank them, and I'm going to do it from best to worst. The best being Longlegs 2024, then Renfield 2023, Willy's Wonderland 2021, Mandy 2018, Mom and Dad 2017, and The Wicker Man 2006. If you haven't seen Longlegs yet, it's pretty good, at least to me. I know a lot of the opinions for Longlegs are mixed, which is fine. Some loved it, some thought it was okay, and some didn't like it at all, which is totally okay. Now, I know that there was quite a bit of hype surrounding Longlegs, promoting it as the scariest film of the year, if not the scariest film ever. And for a lot of people, that just wasn't the case. For some people, it was, and that's awesome, and what makes art so much fun, how subjective it is. Personally, I thought Longlegs was pretty good and a pretty original concept. For me, a 5 out of 5 skulls rating, easily. But try it for yourself and see what you think. I didn't want to say too much about Longlegs because I didn't want to spoil anything. It's kind of one of those movies that you have to sit down and watch. I don't want to tell you anything. I just want you to go into it blind if you haven't seen it. It's something, let's just say that. Everyone already knows in the horror community how much I love the film Renfield that came out last year. I love it so much. It's a fantastic horror comedy with Nicolas Cage as Count Dracula and Nicholas Hoult as Renfield himself. The two Nicholases, I say. Willy's Wonderland 2021 has Nic Cage as the main character, who is trapped in a pizzeria, very similar to Chuck E. Cheese or the game Five Nights at Freddy's, which, just had a horror movie surrounding that came out last year, with demonic animatronics trying to kill him. I mean, what's there not to love? It's so good. It's so silly and just a very fun concept, and I loved it. I love Willy's Wonderland. I loved and the funny thing about it is Nic Cage didn't have any lines in that film. It was funny because he didn't say a word. He just interacted with body movement and killing the animatronics. You would think he would have at least one line. No, he doesn't say anything, and that's pretty impressive. I feel like that, I don't know, at least in my opinion, I could be wrong, that seems a lot harder than having to memorize vocal lines, having to memorize body movements and body language. I don't know. I just feel like that would be a little more challenging. So that's really cool. And it just further shows Nic Cage's range. I love it. Now, moving on to Mandy 2018. Mandy is batshit crazy and really lets out what they call the cage rage. That is a fun psychedelic revenge film where he goes after a cult and some demonic acid-addicted bikers who kidnap his wife. Yes, I said that. Demonic acid-addicted bikers who had a bad batch of acid and they're I don't know, fucked up in the head now. They kidnap his wife and burn her alive in front of him. It's so much fun. He goes after the bikers, he goes after the cult, and it's just full on cage rage. And it's just so much fun. It's really weird too. It's kind of a weird film, but it's very psychedelic and artistic at the same time. It has really beautiful cinematography, and it's pretty good. I watched the Last Drive-In version with Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy, and that just made it even more fun. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's wild. Mom and Dad 2017 is a weird one too. Not as weird as Mandy, but it's weird, it's interesting. This film is kind of like The Crazies, but instead of everyone being infected with a virus that makes them kill, it only affects parents, and they only really want to murder their children. They don't want to murder anybody else, any other adults, anybody else's children. They want to murder their own children. It's very odd. Nic Cage definitely goes full cage rage in this one as well on his kids, and it's entertaining to watch. And I've thought it was pretty cool that if you're a fan of the Chucky TV series like I am, I think his name is Zachary Arthur. He is in Mom and Dad. I think it's one of his first roles. Zachary Arthur plays Jake in the Chucky TV series, and in Mom and Dad it has little Jake. I didn't recognize him the first time I saw Mom and Dad, but when I saw him on the screen, I was like, that kid looks familiar. I'm gonna look up who that is, and said Zachary Arthur. I was like, holy crap, it's the kid from the Chucky TV series that plays Jake. That's awesome. But yeah, if never seen that, definitely check it out. I thought that was pretty cool. Last but not least, The Wicker Man remake from 2006. And I have quite a bit to say about that one. And while it wasn't a bad movie, like I wouldn't like necessarily like call it like a bad movie. It was just like a watered down version of the original, and it just changed so much. Like, the original is one of my favorite horror films of all time. Like, I'll just go ahead and say that. And the reason why I love the original Wicker Man so much is because of its gorgeous color palette, beautiful cinematography. It brought in like pagan aspects because, I've mentioned this on past podcast episodes if you've listened to my Spotify podcast, that I am pagan / Wiccan. And I thought that was really cool, and I definitely respect that. It had beautiful music and beautiful atmosphere, and last but not least, Christopher Lee as Lord Summerisle. I mean, there's so much to love about the original. Like, it's one of my favorite horror films. It's so beautiful, but also eerie and creepy at the same time, and it's just all out amazing. While the remake has Nic Cage, it lacked all the things that made the original wonderful, at least in my opinion. I know everybody's different, and that's totally fine. Its tones were very dark, like, it didn't have that colorful cinematography that the original had. It's just, the story was kind of lackluster, but it, like I said, it wasn't bad. It was just kind of like meh, So that's why I put that at my least favorite, But it does have Nic Cage in it, so I'll give it that. He does a really good job, You can't really go wrong with Nicolas Cage. Like, that's why I gave it, like, my first rating was 4 out of 5 skulls, but I'll give it 3 out of 5 for Nicolas Cage. And it did have the mother that played, the woman that played Reagan's mother in the original Exorcist as Sister Summerisle. And I thought that was pretty cool to see her in another horror role, so I'll give it that too. But yeah, the original all the way for me. That's why I put The Wicker Man 2006 at the bottom. Anyways, guys, a little bit short and sweet. That just about does it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening and for supporting me. I am beyond grateful. Like, seriously, I don't know what I'd do without you guys. Like, you're like a big family to me and like a big friend group, and I love talking horror with you guys. If you'd like to support me further, my Patreon will be linked below. I'll also post my cash tag if you want to like buy me a coffee, send me a little tip, very much appreciated, but also no pressure at all. Let me know in the comments what your fave Nicolas Cage horror film is, or if you have a fave Nic Cage movie in general. Be sure to also like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss when I post. And that just about does it. And be sure to follow me on all platforms except for Facebook. I don't have a page created on Facebook. I don't know if I ever will, but be sure to follow me on Instagram, X. I actually have a new Instagram account. It's xxpurgatorihorrorxx. And then on, my Twitter account is the same. It's just Purgatory Horror. Anyways, thank you all again so much. I love you guys. So long and pleasant screams.